Mike Lindsley here for an ML Sports Take brought to you by Camillus Golf Club and Stumbling Monkey Brewing Company. All right, I'm back. I'm back emotionally invested. But you first have to admit that everybody said, including me a couple of months ago, that this team had this in them. I mean, they either had a loss in them early in the tournament or they had a big run in them. Folks, we knew going into the year that there was something there. They just didn't put it all together. And I'm doing this video right now, by the way, and I've literally gotten at least 20 messages since I hit record. So I'm going to try to focus as much as I can. Hard for me to turn off the group text and then turn it back on and get everything in. It's a really weird thing with my phone, but, it's such a weird, long year with emotions, and that day, the way you feel, and you jump out of a box and yell something, then you get put back in the box and all the rest. By the way, where are my Fire Mark Schmidt people? Can I have a little hand raise here? Can you at least do that on your own for me? He outcoached the living bejesus out of Valentine in that game, and it isn't even funny. Now, 2 overtime win. The emotion, the roller coaster, the trials and tribulations, the silly mistakes, the unbelievable clutch plays. Where do I begin? I could start from the end of the double. I could start from the end of the first. I could start at the end of regulation. I'm just going to do a quick thing from the beginning and go from there, because I think it set the tone for the end of the game, and I'll explain why. First of all, did a little pregame video today. Does anybody remember what I said? Perimeter defense. They're going to need a few guys to make some threes, and I mentioned Banks in this game being huge. Him, maybe Adams Woods, and the former Jan. They didn't do that in the first half. They were 1 of 8, while Loyola was 5 of 12. Bonaventure just couldn't get it going in the first half offensively, right? But I wasn't worried. They had 2 points at the 13:50 mark. They had 6 points all the way until the 9:44 mark. I wasn't worried. Why? Because Loyola only had 16. And then it was 16-8, and then 19-8, 22-8. I wasn't worried. A lot of time to go. Because here's the thing. Loyola never, despite hitting 3-pointers and being up double digits and being in full control, they were only up 9 at the half. Now, that 9-point advantage, I texted a bunch of people. I texted Matt Motika. I texted my dad. I texted some other friends. It seemed like Loyola was always up 9 in this game. If you just looked at it, you were like, man, when are you going to get it down to 6 or whatever? When the Bonnies were down double digits in the first half, consistently, all I said was to myself, they're down 15 with 4:21. They're down 10 with 3:03. They're down, they get it to 8 with 2:08. And then it climbed back up to 31, it stuck at 28-22. It was a 6-point game. So it went from 8 to 6 after that Charles Pride layup. And I kept saying to myself, okay, they got it down to single digits, finally. But when they were down double digits, I said, just get it to single, because the defense was roaring. They were playing a lower scoring game, which I said in the pregame video, that if they could stick to that plan, the way I think Bonaventure can be an elite team, okay? Elite for who they are, A10, blah, blah, blah. Not elite national championship, but you get the point. The way we know that Bonaventure basketball can be an elite program for us. It's winning with defense. Mark Schmidt says it. Clutch free throws, getting big-time turnovers, making big-time shots, and being smart with the basketball. Period, end of discussion. Led by guards and led by forwards. They continued to do the same BS in the first half that I cannot stand. And I said it in the pregame video as well. They would not have been down double digits had they stopped going to Venning. They kept going to him and going to him and going to him. And he was not effective. He was pulled out. They were dumping it in. When they finally put Brown in the game, they started to move better, but it should have been Venning completely out of this game right from the get-go. Now, I know he had his splashes throughout the game at times, and I know that when he got into overtime, he got put into the game because Brown got, the 5th foul, and I didn't think that that was a foul, and I'm going to get to the refereeing in a minute, but I just thought the flow was so bad because they kept dumping in, or pulling them out and doing the screen thing and the handoffs and the turnovers, right? I mean, there were like first half, second half, there were like breaks where it was 3-on-0, 2-on-1, 3-on-1. It was driving me nuts because what you had to have was better offensive efficiency to disallow Loyola Chicago from getting their hands free on the ball, tipping it to teammates, and then going all the way to the other end of the floor. That is a complete and utter disaster if you're Bana playing that game of just dumping into defending and seeing what happens. You need your ball handlers to be there. And in the NFL, you know how people say you can call holding on every play? You can call a foul on Loyola Chicago every single play, by the way. I mean, really, this Loyola Chicago defense is so airtight, and I do respect the hell out of it. And it reminds me a little bit of the old VCU defense under Shaka Smart, where they played chin to chin literally from the beginning of the game until the end. But there's a lot more hand checking here, and I'd be fine with it if both teams were allowed to do it and that was it the entire game. But then as the game was going on, Bonaventure continued to get fouls called on them. And I thought that it was bullshit. I really did. I would never blame the refs if the Bonnies lost this game. I would blame the rebounding. I would blame the slow start. I would blame the offensive scheme to dump it into Venning. I would find many other things to blame more than the officials. I'm not that person. But you have to admit, the broadcasters coming out with, oh, man, I thought that was a foul on Bonaventure multiple times, even when they weren't called. And then some of these calls, even like end of the first, second, into the bleeding into the second half, was ridiculous. Back to the end of the first here before we move right into the second half. They cut it to 6, and I'm like, okay. And they had a couple of unbelievable plays offensively executed to perfection. The possession where Asenvis hit the jumper to cut it to 8, and then the layup for Pride, you could see that the offense was flowing the way it should have been. And by the way, the rebounding started to pick up a little bit. Barry Evans got a big rebound with 3 minutes to go. There were just a lot of things that started to flow for Bana, and you're like, okay, they cut it to 6, and then they gave up that 3. And I said, son of a bitch. That's the one thing you don't want to do. They gave up the momentum right then and there, and they're down 9. Fast forward to the second half. Loyola, here we go, right? They miss a jumper. Bana gets the ball. They get the layup. There's a Venning, actually. That was a great possession by him. But then it's a dunk by them. And then another one by Ruben, actually back-to-back. Then Pride hits the layup. And they're kind of going back and forth. And you can get the idea that the game is picking up here a little bit, right? Noel Brown's into the game, makes the layup with a free throw, right? That and one was sick. And they're trading back and forth, right? Asenvis hits the jumper, and then Alston gets that dunk. Again, turnovers are ridiculous by Bonaventure. Loyola's starting to turn it over here and there. Now it becomes a 9-point game. Again, 46-37, that damn 9-point thing again and again and again. And they keep tossing baskets back and forth. And then all of a sudden at 51, where was the key moment here? 51-40 was the score, double digits for Loyola, and you started to think maybe it's just not meant to be. I certainly had that feeling because of the early struggles, the lack of offensive execution, too much venting, lack of rebounding, the turnovers, all that kind of stuff. At 51, at that mark, 51-40, but then Bana comes roaring back. I mean, Adams Woods, tough as nails. I didn't like his end-to-end game execution. I'll get to that in a second. But if Senvis makes the 2 free throws, Bana starts working it in, and they start getting to the line because Loyola is chasing the plays. They're behind the plays because Bana is utilizing the 7,000 playbook, 7,000 play playbook of Mark Schmidt, and they keep getting free throws, keep working it in, and all the rest. Then it's back to 9, and you're like, what the hell? How is this going to get down again to where it was early or late in the first half? Free throws traded back and forth. Again, Barry Evans, I thought, made a huge shot. He made that big 3-point jump shot, assisted by the former Jan. He gets it back down to 8. Then the Bonnies start to get rolling. 4 minutes to go. Again, it's still an 8-point lead for Loyola. Banks, tough as nails. He was the MVP tonight for Bana. He gets 2 free throws. He gets another shot at the line with 3 free throws. All of a sudden, that 58-50 lead is 58-55. Then Bana comes back. You get the layup and the free throw, the and one from Brown, and it's a tie game. And then you fast forward through all this time when Loyola had 58 points all the way back to and you forgot how long it was. I mean, the commentators kept saying it, but you kind of forgot how long it was. I'll tell you how long it was. It was 6 minutes plus that Loyola did not score again. That right there is arguably the best 6 minutes of defense I have ever seen in the Mark Schmidt era. Regardless of what happens the rest of this tournament, this is up there with any of the Nicholson teams. This is up there with the 17-18 situation. This is up there with the 15-16 team that got absolutely boned on the NCAA tournament, the team that really could suffocate you when they wanted to with defense. I mean, you want to talk about closeouts, you want to talk about help, you want to talk about rebounds, you want to talk about getting on the floor, you want to talk about hands on the ball, you want to talk about placement, you want to talk about smarts and IQ. You can get into all of it. They did everything on earth and turned into the steel curtain basketball defense. They turned into the equivalent of the Steelers defense of the 70s. Hawking the ball, they were all over it. And at 58-50, we probably were all kind of thinking like, maybe it's not meant to be still, probably. And they just fought their way through. Banks, the three-pointer, getting the free throws. Brown with the unbelievable and one. I mean, it was insane. And then that last stretch of time where you had Norris missing the three, Brown had the block. Loyola had a bunch of chances to do it. I did not like at the end of regulation. You could see that Mark Schmidt was super hot when he had called the timeout. I'm going to go long tonight, by the way. This is probably going to be at least a 20-minute video. Adams Woods has the ball, and you can clearly tell that he's dicking around. And then Woods just fires a three-point shot that's like from, Queens. And I'm like, can you not get a better shot? Like, I would have gone to the hoop for sure. So you go to overtime. Worst case scenario, because Bonaventure and Loyola both sort of like froze and nobody scored from the last 106, that Noah Brown free throw and the and one was the last point of the first half, of the second half, of the game. And then we go into just unbelievable drama. I mean, the overtimes were absolutely stupid in terms of stress level and craziness. It's 58-58 all the way until the 3:06 mark. Again, Daryl Banks, he goes to the line. The MVP of the game. Ice in his veins, ridiculousness. Just awesome, awesome play by Daryl Banks. By the way, the fro. Anybody else notice that? The fro. I needed the fro all year. And isn't it amazing when you have a sense of urgency? When you know your season could be done in 3 minutes of basketball. Think about how different they played tonight than when they played against Canisius at the beginning of the year, Fordham at home, Duquesne, the egg laid at GW, all these games, LaSalle, unbelievable. And then you go through the OT, and it's back and forth. It's a slugfest again. Banks with that ridiculous three-point shot off the Brown offensive rebound was tremendous with 29 seconds. They go back and forth again. Alston makes a dunk. It's a tie game, 65-65. Adams Woods again with a three-point jumper. Execution lacked. We got a visitor. I'm almost done. Okay? You want to stay here for the rest of it? Okay. You can't talk much, though, okay? I'm almost done. And it's 65. This is Quinn and Dirty Mickey joining us for the last couple minutes. I would start over, but I'm already 13 minutes in, so we're just going to have to deal with it. And then that's it, right? So there was execution missed again at the end of the first overtime. Adams Woods' decision-making wasn't really that great, and his dribbling and going around the three-point line, I wasn't really thrilled with. And both times you could see, and actually, now that I think about it, Adams Woods, I think, I'm mixing it up. I think the end of the first overtime was the one where Schmidt was really, really hot after he chucked it up. But either way, yes, it was, because Bonaventure called the TO with 14 seconds, and they had about 11 seconds to go to get a great shot off. So Bona can't execute. We're going to another overtime. So all I can think of is Bonaventure's either going to lose in gut-wrenching fashion, or they're going to win by like a miracle play, or something's going to happen like wild, right? Because that's the way this season has been, right? We go to the second overtime. 2 free throws by Adams Woods. Bonaventure starts getting momentum. And at that point, I said to myself, you know what they need? Because you could clearly see that Bonaventure had ice in the veins of the free throw line more than even Loyola. Loyola, going back to the end of the game, they couldn't score. They couldn't make free throws. They couldn't make three-point shots. One of the commentators said, oh, by the way, like how do you expect to make contested threes if you can't even make layups, if you can't make free throws? And he was right. So I thought to myself, after Adams Woods made those free throws, if they could just get a rebound and then get another possession, go up 2 possessions, they got it. It was Brown getting another huge rebound, but then Banks had the turnover. For as clutch as Daryl Banks III was in this game, he was so frustrating because he lost the ball on multiple occasions when he was double teamed on the right of the court, way out from the 3-point line. If you remember, one of those balls, he dribbled and caught it and stepped just on the line, goes the other way. He did that a couple of times, and he really didn't need to do that. They needed to reset, pass the ball, get it back to Banks on the mismatch. You could tell where Mark Schmidt was really working the mismatch game, by the way, because out of the huddle and when he was screaming to his team, the ball was coming from screens out, and Banks would come in to get the ball, and they were trying to work it off so they could get a slower player on Banks as opposed to a guard. So give me one more minute. And so at that moment, you're like, oh, come on. Like, you need that 2 possession lead. So anyways, they're up 2. And we go back to the situation here. Watson gets a free throw. Well, actually, hang on. Yeah, Watson missed a free throw. They got the rebound, and then the made free throw off of that. So you saw the foul on Pride is what it was. Actually, the game log has that, I think, reversed. Either way, Watson made 1 of 2 free throws. And then the tip ball, and then Watson fouled is what it was. Brown then goes to the line. At this point, you're like, you can't even take any more of this. And you know that you have less than 3 minutes to go, but it's going to feel like 400 more minutes. And so they trade back and forth, and it's 2 free throws. And our guy Banks again. This is the possession, right? Like, Bonnie's down. Let's see. Hang on a second. He gets the 2 free throws. And it's a 1-point game at that point, right? And then it's back up to 4, 2 possession again, because Banks makes another 3. You're like, okay, this is the one. The way Bonaventure's played defense from the 6-minute mark of the end of the game until now, this is it. 2 possession game. We got to close this thing out, right? And then they keep going back and forth, and there's fouls and there's turnovers. Then of course, they make another wide open layup. There were misses all over the place. How about the free throw where there's 3 Bonnies down there, including Venning, who's a horrendous rebounder, and Bonaventure can't get the rebound. They let the shooter go right in to make the layup, right? Adelican. And just so frustrating. I cannot believe how many clutch plays Bonner made and then how many dummy plays that were out there. I mean, Adams-Woods, end of regulation, end of overtime, shot selection, Banks with the double team trying to do too much. You had missed assignments down low. You had stupid fouls. You had not closing out on a shooter. You had all these dumb things happen, and yet the clutch plays, they kind of like leveled the other one out. And then Banks is ultimately, again, the difference maker. The amazing fake. He always does this. What have I said? Again, what did I say against LaSalle when the former Jan did it, right? Ascendus leaves his feet, boom, he crashes in. Well, Loyola's defender did it right there. Ruben fouls Banks, and he makes all 3 free throws, okay? All 3 free throws. David Messiah Capers. It reminded me of that. I'm telling you, the only difference, of course, was Bonner lost to Kentucky in the opening round in 2000. I was there in Cleveland with my dad. It was the first game of the tournament at noon, just a gut-wrenching loss, of course. But it reminded me of ice in the veins, bang, bang, bang. He goes 75, 74 with those 3 free throws, and then you're like, okay, here we go. Like, Bonner needs one more defensive possession to win the game. Loyola calls timeout, and then I really thought, and by the way, leading up to this point, how many times did you think Bonner was going to get the ball the other way, right? How about that one play where it looked like, to me, a travel with the big guy down low with Loyola? No. Ball goes out of bounds. They end up going to the monitor for 400 hours, and they find out that it hits his left hand. What about the play where Venning stands straight up like this? The ball goes away. Bonner has possession? No. They call a foul late. It was just absolutely nuts. So the timeout gets called. Loyola has a possession, and I thought they got a really good look, even though it was a deep 3 on the right side. Watson goes up to shoot it. He misses the hoop completely, and that's it. And the Bonnies win the game. Just an unbelievable finish. Incredible guts. Just gritty, gutsy, determined squad, knowing that their season could be over, playing their tempo, rhythm, style in the beginning. I wanted a rock fight. I wanted a low-scoring game. I wanted it defensive. I wanted key free throws. I wanted Bonner to make a few threes. They only made 4 in this game, actually. They gave up 5 in the first half, and they gave up only 1 more after that, by the way. That is incredible defense. You want to talk about airtight and suffocating. They gave up 5 threes in the first half and only 1 in the second half. Mark Schmidt out-coached Valentine. 100 ways until Sunday, which let's hope that it is Sunday indeed, that this team can get there and win 2 more. We're 2 more from the big dance, folks, a spot that we thought they could achieve at the beginning of the year because of the veteran play, because of balance, versatility, big men, the addition of Woods, the addition of Pride, the play of guys last year into this year, having all kinds of things, size, youth, forward length with Evans and the former Jan. I mean, the Bonnies tonight played the way we thought they would for the majority of the year. In closing, looking at the box score, all right, hang in there a little bit, and I'll give you a lollipop tomorrow, not tonight, because you already brushed. But look at the big box score things, right? The Bonnies, they were the ones who adjusted in this game. They got absolutely shredded on the boards in the first half. It only ended up being a 49-44 advantage for Loyola. That was it, because Bonaventure closed out. I mentioned the 5 threes made by Loyola in the first half. They only made 1 more in the second half. That was completely a Bonaventure adjustment thing. Unbelievable airtight defense. Absolutely incredible. Bonaventure's shot selection improved. They didn't go as much to Venning, of course. Brown in there. They played around with the two big men thing. They took Venning out at the right times. I thought they could have used a little bit more Pride, but then you look at the right column. Daryl Banks III played 43 minutes in this game and scored 22 points. And I said it a month and a half ago. I said it 3 weeks ago. I said it a week ago. If Bonaventure is going to make a run in Brooklyn, they need Daryl Banks to be Mr. March like he was with St. Peter's, because there's something about that guy. When March hits, his body changes. He gets into it. He is ready to go. He's got the fro. He makes the big shots. He's got awareness. He's smart usually, except for trying to dribble out of double teams. Tremendous effort there. Adams Woods, other than those couple of things there, he did have 7 big rebounds. He went after it on the glass. The passing for the most part, he did have that one that was behind a player. I think it was Flowers, or I think it was Ascendus. A couple of those in the game where they threw behind, guys. And that's the thing. They had so many of these awful kind of like lost, clueless plays, but they made up for it with their clutch plays. And they ended up having, 4 guys in double figures, including Ascendus, who had 11, 7 rebounds for him, 7 for Pride, 7 for Adams Woods, 8 for Banks. I mean, it's the guards and forwards getting it done. Venning didn't even have a rebound in this game. Or didn't even get 1. Brown had 5 rebounds. Your guards and forwards are better rebounders than the big guys. Ultimately, adjustments, big play Banks, airtight defense, grittiness, guts, and doing their thing when it matters most, winning a game. By the way, this game goes to double overtime, and it was still only in the mid-70s. That's what you want. If they're going to win the tournament, they need most of this recipe. Could use a little bit more offense, but you get the point. Defense, rock fight, key free throws, Daryl Banks clutch plays, smart forwards and guards with the ball, and getting Venning out of the game more, which Schmidt eventually did, which was a huge thing in this basketball game. St. Bonaventure, 2 wins away from the NCAA tournament. Oh, by the way, A10 changing everything now. Rest day tomorrow. So we'll see what happens. Saturday semis, Sunday as usual. They play that game on CBS, the championship game, and then we go right into selection Sunday. Deep breaths. Go Bonus. Thanks for watching, of course, as I always tell you. And it's all brought to you by our good friends at Stumbling Monkey Brewing Company and Stanley Law Offices. Appreciate everybody watching. Share it, like it, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm going to grab a big glass of water. Go Bonus. What'd you say?
Go Bonus.
As I always tell you, enjoy the games.